Welcome to Man in America, a voice of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. One of the main themes of this show is uncovering all the various ways that we are being poisoned and attacked, whether it's looking at the medical system or looking at what's going into our food or the propaganda in our minds. And so today's topic, though, is the poison that most people are not that quite aware of. It's EMF poisoning, and it's something that affects all of us in ways that are so far beyond what we can actually comprehend. If you look at the electronics that are surrounding our society today, even if you live out in the country, you've still got Elon Musk's Starlink beaming down on you. Then we have the fiber optic stuff going on that they're putting in. So it's insane the amount of radiation that is affecting our bodies at levels never seen before in history. And so my guest today is Cory Hillis, someone who is an expert at understanding exactly what this radiation is, what it's doing to our bodies, but also how to mitigate it. So please enjoy the show with Cory Hillis. Mr. Cory Hillis, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Seth, I've heard really good things, and that's not just saying it like you're supposed to say good things when you come on a show. I really have. And so I thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
No, me too. And I mean, and I'm not just saying that either. I'm genuinely excited to have this conversation about EMFs because this is something that, and maybe I can, well, first I'll let you introduce yourself, and then I want to give a little bit of our background and our journey with EMF, because I think that it'll be helpful for you to hear what we've done, and that just kind of helps set the stage for our overall discussion. So I'll let you give us a quick background of yourself first.
Sure. So I was not in this business at all. I got horrible health problems about 20 years ago. Nothing worked. Every doctor I could get my hands on, nobody could figure anything out. Finally, I went to a holistic guy. I did all the holistic too. Did all the Western medicine, Eastern medicine. Finally, somebody started getting me better. I went to work for a company that trained him, a chiropractor, in something called quantum reflex analysis. So I worked for Premier Research Labs. I quit the finance industry stuff I was doing. I went into that. I wanted to help people the way I was helped. And in the process, I became a practitioner over the years, and my wife did. And we realized, my colleagues, myself, my wife, if we didn't address the invisible, ginormous elephant in the room, this EMF radiation for my clients, it's very hard to address their issues, their health issues properly. People like Dr. Klinghardt, who's an expert in Lyme, for example, he says, if you don't address the EMFs, don't even waste your time seeing him, because it's too hard to get better if you're dealing with this onslaught that we have today. So my wife and I went out to go try to solve the problem. And in doing so, we tested every product we get our hands on, and we couldn't find any that totally worked. A lot of things worked a little bit. Some didn't work at all, and a few made it worse. And so we said, well, I got to fix this problem myself. So I started studying, and I'm one to pray and study at the same time. I believe I got a download on some things that were amazing. I applied it. It worked out. It was like, it made all of the things connect the dots. Ever since, every test and study and everything we ever do, it just works. It's beautiful. And that's kind of, what happened. We were just fixing it for our clients and ourselves. And then I got too busy. She had to quit her practice. She got too busy. Then I trained somebody, and then I got too busy for that. So I trained somebody to train the people. And then it just kind of accidentally grew into a company. So that's kind of where we came from, and my background a little bit. Started off as an engineer in college, ended up with an MBA, but having bad health problems and getting into it kind of put me here, I guess.
Well, it's funny because they say a sick man will seek any doctor, right? It's like when you're sick, it doesn't matter what it is. It's like if you think you can find hope in something, and I think the intelligent or the wise sick men seek outside of the Western medical system, and they find, I was like, oh, okay, there's actually other ways of doing this. It doesn't involve chemotherapy and whatever it is that we're dealing with. And so getting into EMF, and I guess I'll wait to tell you our process with it till a little later in the show. Getting into EMFs, the average person that, let's say, I work from home. A lot of people spend, a good chunk of their lives at home or in an office. Office, I'm sure you have a lot less control over in terms of your environment, but I'm sure you have some control. But sitting at home, as an example, you refer to it as like the silent giant elephant in the room. How prevalent are EMFs in the average person's home, and what are those EMFs doing to us? How serious is it?
You know, I can't use adjectives big enough. So today compared to 4 or 5 years ago, it's ripping us apart from the inside out. It's so horrific and horrible. This is the biggest toxic, unless you are living in a black mold house, this is the biggest environmental toxin that you're being exposed to, and you can't avoid it anymore. It used to be, shut your cell phone off, keep it away from you, put your router on the other side of the house, do certain things. You could do those things and it would be helpful. Now you have cell towers in outer space. That's what I call Starlink. Laser beaming radiation at the highest frequency we have commercially, pretty much down from outer space. And now you have something that nobody will talk about on any of your shows because they don't know it yet. But the new fiber optic they're installing, fiber optic should not, if you accept the science everybody else knows, not that we've discovered, but if you accept the traditional science that everybody else knows, that should not be affecting people in a negative way. But I have canaries in the coal mine, thousands of them across the country, flipping out. They fixed their house with our products. They got these great testimonials. And then they put in fiber optics, not even to their house, just in the neighborhood. And then all of a sudden, all the symptoms are coming back, or, they're a mess. And we have to, we're just in the process of finding out how to have one size fits all solution for that. That's another story. But all of these things, you can't avoid it anymore. You could be in the Rocky Mountains and now you're getting Starlink service, and that Starlink service is technically worse than if you were a block away from a cell tower in the city because of the nature of how it is. And I can explain all that in layman term science if we get into the weeds of that. But people have no idea. And let me say a couple more things. There are over 10,000 studies proving this. This is not a question. This is more proven than smoking being bad for you, okay? This is proven more than anything I've ever heard of before. Yet it's swept under the rug, just like smoking was for a long time, with good reason, because there's more money in this than anything ever. You got this, you got the cell phone industry. Everything electric in your house has EMFs, especially the ones that have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So imagine, how many industries you're covering. They don't want to say that they're hurting you. So they do say it. It's in the small print of your cell phone, but they're not going to say it like in a cigarette pack, right big on the outside of your case of your cell phone when you buy it, which it should. And they were sued for that to happen. Didn't work. But they're sweeping it under the rug big time. And if people look at some of the studies, they will be blown away at how not just many different chronic health diseases that are affecting people today come from EMFs, but they'll never think it's, they don't look there as the reason. But the severity of how much DNA damage is happening to you on a daily basis from your cell phone, from your router, from all this stuff will blow people's minds. They can't even believe that's allowed to get in the hands of their children, and nobody told them until they look at the science, and then their jaws drop and they hopefully take action.
And so from the angle of science, makes sense. As a kid, I grew up with a microwave. Now we don't have microwave. We don't use microwaves. But growing up and I'd be looking at my food in there cooking, whether it's popcorn, and my mom would say, no, don't put your head so close to the microwave, right? It's bad for you. It's going to hurt your brain. And it's like, oh, okay. And so it's like, also it was like, well, I'm eating the food that just got microwaved. So like, what's that gonna do? If those things, if they touch my brain, it's gonna melt my brain, but what's happening to the food itself? But it's easy to see how a microwave could put off that bad radiation. But then looking at, say, Starlink as an example, like that's something I hadn't thought about. We've EMF proofed our house to a lot of degrees. We've got no smart meter. We don't buy smart appliances. We've done a lot of, we've grounding mats. We hardwired our internet. We've done a lot of those kinds of things to help with EMFs. But I can't put a Faraday cage over top of my house to protect me from Starlink, right? So, but getting back to the question of the biological aspect of this, what's happening to our body when exposed to these EMFs? And like, I know you have a little reader, right? So someone just sitting in their house in a room that doesn't necessarily have a smart TV across from whatever, like what's the average household even have? What levels they have, and what are those levels doing to us?
The levels are astronomically way over what the FCC considers safe, and their level is astronomically high compared to what scientists say is really safe. You know what I mean?
Imagine
They
that.
picked an arbitrary level of heating your head. So let's talk about the microwave oven for a second. You mentioned the microwave oven heating food. That's 2.45 to 2.5 gigahertz, or a frequency that shakes 2.5 billion times a second. So the way your microwave heats food is it spins and shakes molecules 2.5 billion times a second, basically. They smash into each other at 2.5 billion times a second. That friction heats your food up. Okay. Now, let's fast forward to your router using the exact same frequency as your microwave oven. Most people don't realize. Okay. That 2.5 and 5G, that's not fifth generation 5G that you see when you log into your internet. That's 5 gigahertz. That's 2.5 is 2.45 to 2.5. It's always in that range somewhere. They all have their own little spot in there. To 2 point, and then 5, which is double 2.5. So it's like it's that and then double, which is just double the same problem. So you're using a router. A router is basically a microwave oven with no walls on it. The reason it's heating your food is because all the radiation bounces. Well, now they have holes in front, so some of it comes out, which makes it dangerous and no good. But most of it bounces off the walls until it absorbs in your food, and when it absorbs, that's when it shakes and vibrates the molecules and causes that problem. Now, let's talk about your cell phone. You're on a cell phone call like this for 10 minutes, okay? That heats your head, says the FCC. That's what their safety guideline is. They have an acceptable level of that heating your head, okay? Think about this. Just like a microwave oven heats your head, heats your food. So how does it heat your head? Like being next to a radiator where the heat gently comes in, or a fireplace? No. It shakes and vibrates molecules and spins them so they smash into each other 2.5 billion times a second to heat your head. And they think there's an acceptable level of that. That is insane to me. And any scientist that really knows how this happens should be appalled that we picked a safe level of thermal heating of our head from a cell phone. Here it gets worse. The FCC doesn't even test it touching your body. It doesn't even test it touching anybody. It tests it on a dummy they call Sam, okay? And the dummy, they put fluid and some stuff in it to mimic, a human, they say, but that's ridiculous to mimic biological tissue. But let's just say the Sam's perfect. They still don't even put it against Sam's head. They hold it away, so many millimeters away, because they know if they put it on, it'll be so astronomically high above their safety guideline that it'll be absurd. So in a lawsuit years ago, they were sued because Chicago Tribune did some homework and said, this is not safe like you're saying. And then somebody named Cohen sued Apple. And so it was found, the FCC finally did it closer to the head, 5 millimeters, and found that it was hundreds of times above their safety guideline. Every cell phone in the audience right now, everybody listening, has a cell phone that says in the fine print, this cell phone, as soon as you touch it, exceeds the safety guidelines. And that's an unsafe level of radiation coming off your phone.
Have you ever laid awake at night with your mind racing, your muscles tense, and no matter what you try, you just can't fall asleep? Stress, anxiety, or tight muscles can shut down your body's natural sleep switch. You're exhausted, but your brain just won't turn off. That is where Perfect Sleep Max from Perfect Origins comes in. It's not just another melatonin pill. It's a complete formula designed to help you relax and sleep from multiple angles. So L-theanine and GABA quiet your mind and reduce stress. Usuna-purines and 5-HTP support dopamine and serotonin to lift your mood and deepen rest. Magnesium relaxes your muscles. Melatonin resets your sleep cycle, and phallodendron root calms inflammation. It's clean, non-GMO, and built to give you real sleep support. One bottle is $39, or you can save with 3 to 6 month bundles, and AutoShip brings it down to just $29 a bottle with free shipping. and every order is backed by a 180-day money-back guarantee. So go to perfectorigins.com and use promo code MIA to save 25%. That's perfectorigins.com, promo code MIA.
And the level that they picked, I already explained, is absurdly high if you understand the science. So that was a lawsuit too. Somebody sued them saying, hey, just put that on the package when people buy so that they can understand this is a safety hazard. There's some risk to it, so we can have options. But they don't do it because they know nobody reads the fine print. And the darn judge said, no, it's redundant. It's a long story with the legal jumbo, but he said, it's already in the fine print. We're going to leave it there. Shame on that judge. So that's a little bit about a microwave oven. Everything Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, like your cell phone, your Wi-Fi router, everything else Bluetooth, Wi-Fi is pretty much using a frequency like your microwave oven. They're all microwaves, okay? And they have effects. They have non-thermal effects. And by the time you get to thermal heating, the effects are just crazy. It's crazy high.
So it makes sense to imagine that kind of rapid shaking and spinning at the molecular or cellular level. It doesn't sound healthy. It doesn't sound good. So, I mean, to put it lightly. So what does that do to your body though? Like what are the, someone would you say that a lot of people's illnesses and ailments are just radiation poisoning? And is that what radiation poisoning is? I mean, how would you classify that? And what are the effects it has on the physical body?
I'll tell people in the audience where to go. They can go research this themselves in minutes, not hours, in non-biased places. They could read summaries of many, many, many studies. So the most common symptoms of being exposed to household levels of EMF from microwave radiation that we get, fatigue, like chronic fatigue that people have, sleep issues, concentration issues, immune system imbalances and suppression and problems, cardiovascular issues, low melatonin production when you're sleeping. They call it issues to reproduction. I say it's complete destruction of our reproductive abilities is going on right under our noses, and we aren't aware of that. So that's a whole, I could talk an hour about that conversation alone. That's happening. And the list goes on and on and on. So it's such a large list. There are so many studies. But if you say to yourself, if you read that list and a longer list than that, and you say, I don't have symptoms, luckily I'm okay. No, you're not, because you are getting your calcium channels are malfunctioning. That's leading to nitric oxide imbalances, free radical damage, and DNA damage. That's happening in every human out here. If that doesn't translate into a symptom that you recognize yet, good for you. That's great. But it's happening in massive amounts. And I can point to the studies showing how much DNA damage is happening just from your cell phone alone. And people will be like, they won't even believe it. I mean, it's so to think that it's this much and they're not being told, they're not even going to believe it. So those are the symptoms that are happening to people. And they just so happen to be the most common symptoms out there today, right? Chronic fatigue, sleep issues, like you get tired halfway through the day. All this stuff describes like what's happening. Just so happens when we fix a house, better sleep, more energy, little aches and pains going away happen to be our top testimonials too. When it doesn't happen, I'm almost surprised. So anyway, those are the things happening. And if you don't have the symptoms, all that DNA damage, is that going to spell something in the future for you? It's kind of rolling the dice. It's not the dice I plan on rolling with me and my family.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, it sounds like, it could be, say 20 years from now, you have brain cancer. It's like, oh, where'd that come from? It's like, who knows? Right. But it could have been that.
I didn't say cancer, but there's lots of studies on cancer. And can I give a website to your listeners?
Oh yeah. I'll pull it up actually. What is it?
It's the Bio Initiative, one word, just the bioinitiative.org. And if you add on the end of that / conclusions, that is a great spot to go. The reason it's my favorite, and there's a lot of others, but the reason that's my favorite is because I've been doing it the longest. The members are from around the world, United States, Canada, Mexico, Europe, Russia, Australia, everywhere. They're environmental group leaders and scientists. They've been doing it longer than just about anybody. They have probably as many or more studies than anybody. They're non-biased. They don't sell anything. They're not funded by anybody that sells anything. So I just think they're the best, biggest, most knowledgeable body of information on EMF radiation that there is. So the reason I like this page, the conclusions page, is because somebody who's new can go here, and this summarizes 1,800 studies. So you can read what they say about how many studies were on leukemia, how many of them were conclusive. And if they don't know what that means, it means there's almost a guarantee that the EMF was the cause of the thing that is in the study. And it just goes, one by one, like how kids being more affected, low melatonin production when you're sleeping, and all the symptoms I talked about are pretty much all in here. And they can just kind of read until they are convinced and then they get this real deal. So this is a really good place to start if you're looking for information. And this link is on our website as well, of course. Lots of other links to lots of other cool stuff is on there as well.
Yes, I mean, this is I've got a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and even this is just crazy. He's saying effects on the developing fetus from in utero exposure to cell phone radiation have been observed in both human and animal studies since 2006. They found that children born of mothers who used cell phones during pregnancy develop more behavioral problems by the time they have reached school age than children whose mothers did not use cell phones during pregnancy. Children whose mothers used cell phones during pregnancy had 25% more emotional problems, 35% hyperactivity, and 49% more conduct problems, and 34% more peer problems. And that was 2008. And I'm sure that the phones...
I was going to say that's an old study because the cell phones today are so much worse.
Oh, exactly.
Let me tell you a study in about that same time period that the European Union paid millions of euro for 12 institutions across Europe to participate in. It's called the Reflex study. There's a lot of DNA studies showing DNA damage from this stuff. This one, they decided, let's test to see how much a cell phone from around the time of that study you read, yesterday's cell phone, how much DNA damage is that causing a human versus a chest x-ray, which we know is a higher frequency. Instead of billions of waves a second, it's many trillions of waves a second, ionic radiation, and it damages you differently. It's two totally separate ways that it damages you. That was the problem. We had to figure out that second one. It took 50 years to discover how ionic radiation was damaging us, by the way. They played around with this stuff for 50 years before we realized, oops, it's damaging DNA, so don't do it too often, only when you need it, like medically. But now we know that the other one, it took us 60 years to discover microwave radiations just hurting us a whole different way, causing DNA damage, but it's a whole different mechanism and how that's happening. And the world's not waking up to it yet. But this study, let's go back to the reflex study, 24 hours on a cell phone was equal to the same as 1,600 chest x-rays worth of DNA damage. And they show the pictures, it's called the assay method, of the strand breaks. It's like it gets smeared when you have strand breaks in these pigs, assay method. So they unanimously agreed, not one dude, 12 institutions across Europe. And the guy who headed the study was a major like a stud in his field. So very respected and was paid for by the European Union. So this is just one of many studies our government, US government's paid, state governments have paid for these, proving this is harmful. And they always just sweep it under the rug. But this result will show people how severe this, if that's a 10th true, it's a lot. We're getting a lot of DNA damage from this stuff. We just don't realize it.
And one thing that I've noticed, especially since COVID, is I think during COVID, when there was a lot of lockdowns, there were a lot of new 5G towers that were put up, and people have done different digs into why that was happening. But it's something that I've certainly noticed. We where we live, thankfully, there's no 5G towers within even probably a mile from here, and we live in a very rural area, very mountainous. So what have obviously we've got Starlink, we have things satellite coming down, but what effect are the 5G towers having? Like if they put a 5G tower up in an area, what's going on around that area?
It's all cumulative, these things, I can't blame one. I can't blame any. I don't think Elon Musk thinks he's hurting people. because physicists and electrical engineers, and I have a relative who's an electrical engineer, genius IQ, works on space station stuff and all this. It's drilled in their head that ionic radiation is harmful. And because this lower frequency stuff doesn't harm you the same way, they assume it's harmless. But they're not biologists unless you marry a physicist, so to speak, to a biologist, or they get together and they share information. I'm happy to explain to your audience how this happens. They'll never figure it out. And so all this stuff's going up everywhere unchecked, because the physicists like that work for Elon Musk on his electric cars, Starlink, and all the rest are saying, don't worry about it, it's fine. What they're looking at a satellite that has to be super strong up there, because almost all of that radiation, 99.9% of it, gets absorbed on the way down. Only a little bit of it makes it to your antenna, which is your satellite dish on your house or your car or wherever. Phone now phones are connected to those. So you got a satellite dish that gets, like, let's say about the same amount of radiation as a cell tower. It's coming to that satellite dish. Well, what happened to the 99.9% of energy that was coming down that got absorbed? The scientists ignore that completely. And we're the only place in the world saying the thing you're ignoring is the problem. It's the absorbed radiation that is shaking and vibrating molecules. We call it subatomic chaos, that is vibrating through solid material, that is fooling our calcium channels into malfunctioning, that causes that snowball of effect we talked about inside the cell, that then can translate into health problems and symptoms and things like that. So, like, the whole science is there. And we've proved not only that that's happening, but we proved with human cells that our products fix it all too. That malfunction is not happening in the cell when our products are being used. And a lot of people out there have great marketing, but nobody's got our science to date. So I'm happy to get into that stuff. Let me show your listeners. You said cell towers. So I'm going to go back to a cell phone. This is first a cell phone. So this is called blood microscopy testing.
Ladies and gentlemen, our world is being poisoned. Every day we're exposed to more chemicals sprayed into our skies, leaching into our food, and polluting our air and water. From pesticides and heavy metals to hormone disruptors and synthetic additives, these toxins are bombarding our bodies and silently destroying our health. But there's something you can do to fight back, and it starts in your gut. Kimchi One from Brightcore Nutrition contains over 900 strains of beneficial probiotics that will help flush toxins, restore gut balance, and support your immune system. Because when your gut is strong, your body can resist. You'll feel the difference. Better digestion, more energy, clearer thinking, stronger immunity, and even improvements in your skin, hair, and metabolism. And this isn't just hype. Studies show that fermented foods like kimchi can reduce the risk of obesity, improve blood sugar, and support whole body wellness. Kimchi One is all natural, non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, and 100% made in the USA by a company that actually cares about your health. And today, you can get an exclusive offer just for my viewers, 25% off with your code MANINAMERICA by clicking the link below. Or call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. So give them a call now at 888-575-6488, and their educated staff will make sure that Kimchi One is right for you. Again, that's 888-575-6488. All the links and information are in the description below.
Dark field blood microscopy testing, okay? This is a rep that works for us. She's now a manager. So this was her blood under a microscope. She went to a doctor, happened to do this, not many do. They prick her finger, they look at her red blood cells under a microscope. They're supposed to be round and spaced apart. So they're not looking too perfect here. But she's also in the lobby with Wi-Fi routers in the building and people's cell phones around and all that. Well, she gets on the phone call with our chip on the phone, protecting her cell phone. So then they prick her finger 2 minutes on a cell phone call, and then now it's starting to look like it's supposed to. Then she continues the phone call, takes our chip off, and this is what happens to it. So it's called rouleau when they stack up like that. And this happens over and over. I have, let's see, we have cell phones, power lines, near cell towers. We have all of those effects that we can show people. Here's one I talked about earlier. This is somebody that was on a 10-minute call and the heat signature didn't change in their head. This is the normal heat signature of their head. When they made a call with our cell chip, it didn't change at all. When they didn't use our cell chip on a cell phone, look at the heat signature that changed on their head. Their head's heating up, just like I said, a microwave oven does. The white is the hottest, the red is the next hot. That's what's happening on a cell phone. So when you look at the science, and so the reason I'm so passionate about this is because I did that. My wife did that. I got my finger fixed. My wife did, her mom, all of our friends and family, because we're trying to get all the people into the study that we could get. We've gone through these. We've seen it messes us up. And then when you do the products and it fixes it, you have a lot more hope about this stuff. But can I explain how this is happening?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do.
So it was discovered before we came along that the calcium channels in our cells, calcium channels is a door on the membrane of your cell that lets in calcium. Double ion, that's 2 positive charges, calcium molecules in or out.
Is it kind of like a receptor? Is it a calcium receptor, basically?
They're sensitive to different things. The key one that they want to talk about is voltage gated calcium channels.
Okay.
So when there's a voltage change outside versus inside the cell, when the charge is messed up on the outside versus inside, because it should be balanced for the cell should be negatively charged compared to its environment. So, and every cell's got their own happy place on that. So it knows how to balance itself. So when there's a voltage change, it lets in more calcium and doesn't. It constantly changes in muscle cells and heart cells, and certain ones do have a lot of exchange of this because it's, the charge is what it's all about, right? How muscles work and how your heart works. So there's a lot of like L channels, different kind of channels in these cells. So this was discovered that it would malfunction when around a router, a cell phone, or any of this stuff. So this is a diagram from Dr. Martin Paul out of Washington State University, and this is an EMF, and it causes this calcium channel malfunction, sending double ion calcium molecules in a cell. That imbalance creates the nitric oxide imbalance, free radical damage, and DNA damage. He talks about all of that. I'm going to let the biochemists explain that stuff. Where we come in is we were the first to discover how the heck this is doing this, because it doesn't make sense. Okay? There's a lot of theories on this, and none of them add up. Okay? Until you understand what we understand. When radiation goes from a cell tower to your phone, a lot of it goes through a wall, through a floor, another wall, finally gets to your cell phone and you're on a phone call. Not to mention went through the air for miles or whatever. A lot of that radiation gets absorbed on the way. The absorbed radiation is what causes the shaking and vibrating of molecules, very similar to a microwave oven heating your food. It's that shaking and vibrating that conducts through solid material. It's a different form of energy. The meter no longer picks it up anymore, the EMF meter. It's not an EMF anymore. It's something else. This is what's causing our calcium channels to malfunction by opening when they're not supposed to, rushing our cell with calcium and causing the imbalance and causing us our problems. The reason I explain that, and the reason it's so important, this is kind of like the download I had years ago, is because our products are addressing that second domino, that subatomic chaos. We don't address the EMF. If you block the EMF, you have no router, you have no cell phone, you have no FM radio, you have no nothing. So you can't really block radiation and have your stuff work. But you don't need to, because this, until it smashes into a particle, like this is a photon traveling light speed, EMF radiation, when a photon hits into an electron and the electron absorbs the photon, the EMF is gone. There is no photon anymore. It transferred to a new form of energy. And a whole lot of different things can happen here, which we don't have to get into, but one of which we call subatomic chaos. And when we address domino 2, domino 3 doesn't happen, which then this stuff shouldn't happen, right? And we tested it on human cells a couple of years ago. We had a lab in Texas test this theory for at least 23 times it's been done before we came along, where there were studies on EMFs showing the calcium channels malfunctioning. In this study, we put a router next to human cells, in an incubator, and the human cells next near the router absolutely were malfunctioning, like predicted, like it's happened before. This time we fixed the router. I'm sorry, we fixed the router that was nearby, and a little bit the incubator because that's electric. And all the cells return the calcium levels back to normal. That's the first time that's ever been done in history. So this malfunctioned, but then with our products addressing this, domino 3 didn't happen. It was a perfect probability function in the study. In other words, there's zero chance pretty much that our products didn't work. If you know studies, p-value is 0.0001. The first time we did the study, it was a little higher because we did a smaller study. So we're like, well, let's do thousands of cells of each cell. We did it so big that we got a perfect probability function proving our products work. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Interesting.
So that's really cool stuff.
So I'll walk through again, as I mentioned, some things that we've done. I guess you could say that the main thing we've focused on is not having smart technology, Bluetooth technology in our home. Now, I've got like, a Bose wireless speaker somewhere. I'm sure it's putting off something, right? But we got rid of our smart meter. We hardwired our internet. We have Wi-Fi during part of the day, but I have a switch that turns it off, especially at night, but it's kind of limited. We've got grounding blankets. We have a grounding mat on our bed. We've got, at the computer, grounding mats. I'm trying to think of anything else that we've done. Those are the main parts. At one point, I thought about putting lead paint all over the, painting the interior of our home. What's that?
Don't do that.
No. Okay. But so that seems like it's probably helpful what we've done, right? In terms of, not having a smart meter, not having the devices. We bought older, we didn't get new fridges. I found some, kind of higher end, but used, like a Wolf Range and a Sub-Zero fridge that are just older technology, no smart technology for the kitchen. So how effective is what we've done, and where are the loopholes, and how do you address those loopholes?
I don't do any of those things that you did, but if you didn't have our knowledge, if you didn't have our solutions, then I would do all that stuff, because that's you did the best you could, and you did a lot of good. Not having devices obviously is, you're lessening your exposure. You're just getting hammered by, if you're out in the countryside, it sounds like more so rural. You're getting Starlink's your biggest issue. The more, I know people that used to live in Dallas, they're EMF sensitive a little bit. They fixed it with our products, but when you're running around town, you still can tell if you're sensitive. And they moved out hours away from Dallas into a small town. And after COVID started, and it has nothing to do with COVID, probably it doesn't have anything to do with COVID, but it just so happened that's when Starlink started sending thousands of their satellites up, right about when COVID happened. And now she's out there, and she says it's worse than Dallas. And the only thing that would make sense is the Starlink, because who gets Starlink first? It was all the people in the country that can't get internet. And so they're blasting all the countryside with their radiation more than the cities, which, don't need it. So I believe that's a really big issue, because they don't realize by sending something 350 miles away to my cell phone or my satellite dish or something, there's a lot more. This is traveling light speed. There's a lot more absorption on the way. It's called attenuation in science. When the signal loses its signal, it just means that photons got smashed into things and got absorbed by stuff. But again, that energy doesn't disappear as it's coming light speed at you. And that other absorbed energy is the problem. And the scientists aren't measuring anything about all this, that 99.9% that disappeared. And I think that's why the problem is probably so big. My wife's sensitive to EMS. We couldn't even have the Wi-Fi in the car. She got a Chevy Tahoe, and it has the OnStar provided hotspot, so that multiple kids could be live streaming. So they shut up on a long trip, like get on their phones or their tablets or whatever. But she got headaches in the car because she's so sensitive. And we had to disconnect it. That's not many things I say you can not have your cake and eat it too. This is how crazy it is. We lived 10 yards from a 5G cell tower when we were in California before we moved to Charleston, South Carolina. And when they put it in, we didn't know, because this was years ago. It was like one of the first ones that ever went up. And we just woke up feeling terrible one day. We're like, what is wrong with this? I slept terrible. You too, man. It's like thought we had the flu. We didn't. And so it took us a day or two to figure out. Our neighbor said, I wonder if you feel so crummy because of what the phone company did on that pole right next to you. Turns out that was a 5G tower. So we over fixed our house. I say over, like more than a normal house, with our products. And this is like a home harmonizer that you put on your electric meter, which spreads a field through your house, protecting you from everything outside. So we had to not do one of these. We had to do multiple. And so we did multiple of those, felt amazing. Her symptoms were gone. And she feels great. And we stayed there in a month-to-month lease for years before we moved to Charleston. She got rid of chronic fatigue she had since she was 4 years old, living in a place where the meter said it was terrible. Even the voltage meters and the other meters I had said it was a terrible place to be, but it felt calm, amazing. We got healthier and healthier. EMF sensitive people would come over and always say, I love your place. It's so calm and nice. It feels so good in here. Like we had people over for Thanksgiving. We laughed because like one relative came in and said that, and then 5 minutes later, another relative walked in and said that almost verbatim. We were like, high five, good job. Anyway, you did some great things. I did a video. You can't really avoid it. So just avoiding is not possible. And the grounding usually makes it better. So grounding is not addressing the root cause. It does not address the subatomic chaos. What it does is, when you have the subatomic chaos, imagine this, grounding is addressing voltage. And voltage is electrical pressure. It's just pressure, okay? So when you have more pressure in an environment, the subatomic chaos is worse. And when the pressure is lower, the subatomic chaos is improved. It's better. It's less chaotic. So by grounding properly, you can take the edge off, but you can't get rid of the problem with
that makes sense.
Grounding. So, and I have all kinds of other very scientific proofs that makes it impossible for voltage to be the answer. A lot of smart people think voltage is the answer because it's a voltage gated calcium channel that's malfunctioning. So like, it must be voltage. And when they fix it, they ground, some of them get a little improvement because, again, it's like the icing on the cake, but it takes the edge off enough. They go, oh, okay, I feel a little better now. This is good. But it's impossible for it to be the voltage for many reasons. One is the calcium channels are malfunctioning, okay? If voltage from an EMF was affecting the voltage-gated calcium channel, it would be functioning. You know what I mean? The voltage change would make it work the way it's supposed to. It would balance the charges properly inside versus outside the cell. That's not what's happening. It's malfunctioning so that the charges inside versus outside are totally out of whack. So something is causing that to malfunction, not function. That's just an easy way of explaining it. But here's one thing. If you ground outside, it's always good, or neutral, okay? Because you're connected to the earth. The earth is a negative charge. And so your positive charge is going right into the earth. So is the tree next to you. So is the car. So is everything, right? It's all connected to the earth. When you ground inside with grounding mats, just a little caution for your viewers, what you're doing inside is you are connecting yourself to the grounding, the third little hole in the plug. And that goes to the grounding rod that goes to the earth. So you're connecting yourself to the earth, lowering the voltage, which is good. But you're also now the easiest way for all of the charges around you to get out. So now you have all these charges that wouldn't be going through you, going
through
an antenna,
you,
get out. Yes. So that's a negative. So you got a positive and a negative going on. So usually the net outcome is more positive than negative, but 10% of the time ish, it's the other way, and you'll actually get worse. You'll be worse off if you ground in some places inside. So that's why I don't like to ground inside. I don't feel like we need it at all. When we use our products and we address the root cause, unless there's something else about voltage somebody can show, there's never been anything shown, then I don't think it needs to be addressed. We didn't, and our voltage was off the charts and we felt amazing.
So Walk me through that. That does make sense, actually. It's kind of like, why do you have a grounding rod? It attracts the lightning, right? Or it kind of, whether it's or or lightning rod, right? It kind of attracts the electricity coming to it, so it makes sense how you kind of turn into an antenna. So with your
Exactly.
products, how do they work, right? Because I've kind of beat my head against the wall, and my wife has even more so, figuring out how we can create a safe environment for our children. And to me, Starlink, it might as well be the same as chemtrails. It's like, it doesn't matter how much we stop them from, we use air purification, we've got, triad air, all these things going on. You step outside and they're spraying, and both my kids, their noses get stuffy, and eyes are watering. It's just like, like, what do I do
Uh,
about this, right? Um, to me, it's almost like, Starlink. It's like they're like EMF chemtrails. It's like, I can't stop the satellites up above. So, what do we do? And how does what you've discovered in your inventions and your products, how do these address the issue?
so going back to that diagram, we're addressing that second domino. Okay, we're addressing the subatomic chaos. I'm not going to tell you the proprietary, secrets we have. Of course, I can give away so much of what we're doing and so forth. I don't mind explaining that stuff because I can tell all my competitors that they either don't believe me, or B, they can't figure out the solution to actually fixing that anyway. But let me give you an analogy. So if you have an EMF has a magnetic and an electrical field, and they shake so many times a second, like a billion times a second if you're on a phone call, 2.5 and 5 billion times a second if you're on the internet, and so on. So it shakes. The electric and the magnetic field are perpendicular to each other. They vibrate, shake, and it's perpendicular to the direction that the photon's traveling. So that's a little bit of the science. So um, if you had, let's just take the magnetic force. Let's say you had magnetic shaking, like chaos, magnetic chaos, and the force is up and over, and then that way, and then over, and then up again, and random amounts in all different directions. That's chaotic, right? Now let's bring a magnet in. Boom. I just harmonize that area because the magnet's going to want to align forces up, right? So if this isn't the answer, this is why I can tell you this is a great analogy. So, but if you were like a voltage gated calcium channel and that was the thing that was messing you up, and then you bring in a magnet, it's going to go, oh, I'm paying attention to this message, not that chaotic one anymore. So it's going to not malfunction anymore. And that's kind of what we do. We create with a different product a field that addresses that subatomic chaos so that your voltage gated calcium channels aren't getting fooled by this shaking and vibrating. And it's a very subtle, small subatomic thing. Some people are crazy, can feel it because it's getting to them. Most people don't feel it, don't recognize it. It's a very, very small force. It's like a million times, a millionth of the force of like a strong refrigerator magnet. But the forces of the EMF that are shaking are enough for our calcium channels to get fooled and malfunction. So that's kind of an analogy of how our products are working. We're harmonizing the subatomic chaos. Now, when we put this on your smart meter, for instance, this is on a clamp because like this might be a pole that goes up with the wires in it, and then your smart meter's here, and so on. So you could just clamp this here, or you could put it on top of your smart meter. So when this is on your smart meter, we use the electric wires to send the field, which is in our products here, which is natural materials in here, into the wires. It doesn't even have to be plugged in and touching, just really close to the wires. And then the wires travel into every room in your house. So we've created this field goes into every room in your house. So when the subatomic chaos from something outside goes through your wall and it tries to create that subatomic chaos in your wall, our product has basically smoothed it out, and you don't react to it anymore.
I see. So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, I have limited electrical know-how. I've fooled around with the breaker panel, and I try not to kill myself by crossing the 220 wires or something. But if I understand correctly, we're looking at this is that our house, our electricity comes in, from a power line. It comes into the house. Actually, no, it goes underground. Actually, this power lines, it goes underground. Either way, it comes into our main breaker. The two fat wires come in, and that's almost like your heart and all your veins and arteries. That is kind of like the wiring of the house. So it comes in that one spot,
Mhm.
and then from
Right.
there you've got copper wires that then, again, similar to veins, like they kind of vein out all over the entire house, and those veins continue whenever you
Correct.
plug something in. So you plug in
Right.
something, it's connecting that. So you basically, it's almost like you see the pictures of where they take out the nerve, they show like the human nervous system with nothing else, and you see it's this really kind of crazy looking, or let's say the vascular system. It's just like this heart and all these little wires going everywhere. So that
Mhm.
basically is the electrical system of the house. Our houses have this copper wire system that goes throughout. So if I understand correctly, what you are doing is, it's not like you have one box over there that emits a radio to, kind of like a field, like a Wi-Fi router, where it's like it creates a bubble. But instead, what you're doing is you're actually, then, in the same way that we can be used as an antenna and
Mhm.
grounding ourselves, everything comes in. You're kind of doing the opposite by tapping into the core, kind of spinal cord of the nervous system of the house, and you're harmonizing all that chaos through, but using the entire wiring and all the plugs and everything in the house to create harmony, instead of
Mhm.
subatomic chaos. Is that a somewhat accurate understanding?
Really well put, actually. So yeah, that's very well put. So we are creating a field, and we're using the wires as a transportation tool and an antenna, like you said. It's literally an antenna. So the subatomic chaos travels really well through metal, like the best. It travels the best through metal. Then a little less good through like a hard material like concrete, and then a little less well it travels through wood, and then a lot less well through the air. So it dissipates in the air a lot faster than it, and doesn't travel as doesn't conduct as well. The subatomic chaos is just like our products. Our products field conducts the best through metal. That's why we try to get it to wires if we can. Second best through solid material like concrete and this and that, not as good through dirt, and then a lot less well through the air. So we try to get our product in places that make sense. So we have a chip on the back of your phone, and it's close to the batteries we can get it. That's where we want our chip. So the back of the phone is where we put it. So, on my phone, you can see it's a kind of a 3D ish, but it's, real thin chip on the back of the phone. And I just get a little bit of a flex in a case, and then it pops right over it, and it's back there. And there's a pop socket, but you can see it's just underneath of there. So that's what we do. We have chips for your laptop, your tablet. Very important is a device chip. This is this little clip that goes on your Wi-Fi router. That's the first thing in the house that almost always needs to be fixed, because that's like the worst culprit in the house. Cell phone and Wi-Fi routers are some of the worst things. Smart TVs are making a comeback, like they're competing now because they're getting so strong as well. So smart TVs need this. This is a little chip inside. It's just our solid material. There's a couple things in here, but we put it in resin. And when this is up against the electric wire to your PC or to your router or whatever, it's going to harmonize that little space. And you'll see, if your people know how to do muscle testing, it's a neat way for you to see this stuff really working amazingly too. But this is really important for all of the devices. That's why it's called device chip, that we want to fix. And our reps, if people call in and ask a rep, what do I need to do first? If they can afford to do everything, do everything. There is probably more than 50% chance you will have a testimonial. And we don't fix medical conditions, but there's such a shift in people's lives from yesterday when they're getting hammered with all of this calcium channel imbalance and all the problems that come with it. And all of a sudden that's gone. The stress, the toxic stuff is gone. Their bodies, 25% of the time, you're going to detox for 1 to 3 days as your body's doing things to itself. It's even probably getting a little higher than that, which a lot of people need to hear me say that, because detox doesn't feel good. So if you install the products and you sleep worse or you feel worse, it's your body healing itself. It's not our products doing it. It's not our products don't work. They're working. And then you come out the other side, if you're normal health, at 1 to 3 days, and then you're going to go back to normal or above normal, and you will go, holy cow, I haven't slept this good in years or whatever. I mean, dreaming. So many people tell us that they haven't dreamt in years. And then they install our products and they go, I have these deep dreams now. And what that hints at to me, I'm no medical doctor or dream expert, but you probably weren't deep enough in REM to have good dreams. And now you are. And that's where you need to be. And people don't realize, like, if you get tired halfway through today, you made most of your adrenaline that you use today last night when you were sleeping. You should have. But if your body's busy repairing all the DNA damage and free radical damage and all this, EMF stuff, it doesn't have the energy to make the melatonin, to make the adrenaline, to do all the things it's supposed to do when you're sleeping. So halfway through the day, you just burn that wick out. It's like, I need coffee. And I don't know how you can be healthy if you don't get good sleep and rest. It's kind of like trying to be a smoker and being the healthiest person you can be. It's like, it doesn't really go together. So better sleep is one of my favorite testimonials, because people just feel better. Actually, Amy, that put me on your show, she tried all these products and all these different things before, and she was sleeping 9 hours a day. And you can talk to yourself, and having to get on energy energy drinks and all this and that, and having issues. Now she sleeps 7 and she feels better than she had in years. That's just one of thousands of people telling us the same thing. So if you don't get a testimonial, that's okay. Our products don't specifically do anything to your health. It just takes this stress away. And then your body's left with more energy to do with whatever it's got to do,
And so this is really fascinating to me because again, like as I mentioned, we've gone down so many different ways in trying to understand how to improve this, because we understand how dangerous EMFs are. Same way we understand how dangerous toxic mold is. Like in my studio right here, which is in my basement, I've got a triad air running. In the other part of the basement, we've got little mini ozone generators. So we're really serious about quality of life and understanding that our health is actually a product of our environment. And if our environment is full of mold and toxins and chemicals and EMFs, it's going to make us sick, right? And so this is really helpful, though, in understanding. It makes sense to me, like how having something on that main kind of line coming into your house can then use all your electrical stuff. In my studio right now, I'm surrounded by, I think, about 12 different monitors. I've got 12 different monitors. I've got 3 different computers running. I've got audio equipment running. I've got all kinds of stuff happening here. And I can see it's like that unless, you can invent this kind of magical little device that just absorbs EMF, right? Like, a Shungite pyramid, which we got those floating around, that it's like, well, what do I do about this? But actually it makes sense now that if you can hit it at the core, which is kind of tap into its own electrical system and harmonize it at that level, it's going to make a significant, reduction in these harmful EMFs. And so a question I have for you is, earlier you held up this fancy kind of EMF detector, right? It's got this little, kind of looks like an X-wing or something.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk into, yeah, there you go. Yep. Looks like a toy I'd play with as a kid.
EMF meter. Yep.
So we bought one. It's, it was nothing like that. It was like on Amazon, maybe $100, because we were testing and seeing, because one of the houses we had before had a smart fridge. And it's like, holy smokes, look at this fridge putting off these EMFs. Okay. So a typical house you walk through, let's just say my home, right? Someone who's already taken steps. I don't live in a big city, taking steps to do this. What are your typical EMF readings that you're getting just walking through before and after the home gets treated with your technology?
Great question. So first of all, the FDA says that 10 million microwatts per meter squared would be safe. That's on microwave radiation. 10 million microwatts per meter squared. That's their safety guideline. How do you pick a 10 million number? Just throw it out, out of nowhere. That is so high. It's the highest one in the world. Nobody says that radiation's safe that high. The FCC measures not the amount of radiation. They measure the heat signature, the SAR rating, like we talked about, specific absorption rate, which is more accurate, but they picked a level that's about the same as the FDA. If you translated it, it would be probably 5 to 10 million microwatts per meter squared. The Bioinitiative website that I showed you earlier says that then when this goes over 6, they see biological effects in their studies. Not 600, 6,000, 6. Okay. So you're surrounded by it. And here's just like, can you see the numbers on the meter? It says 100 and something, right? 70, 60, 50. So let's just take a cell phone and I got to turn it on here. So it's screaming at 1. 1 means it's over 2,000. It's maxed out. It can't go higher. So when I take it away, you'll see it count down from 2,000 eventually. In 1900, it's counting down. So these cell phones are so high. They go to hundreds of thousands of microwatts per meter squared. That's how it heats you. And people don't realize when you're on a cell phone call and you're in your basement and you're talking to your friend in China or whatever, the radiation not only had to come from the cell tower 5 miles in the air, through some trees, then through your wall, then the floor, and then some of it got to you. Most of it got absorbed on the way. Some of it got to you. When you talk, how does that cell phone get the message back to the cell tower? It's not magic. It's so strong that the radiation off of that's got to go through the floor, through the wall, through the tree, travel 5 miles, that the tower picks it up. People don't realize they're walking around with a radiation machine. This is an amazing bit of technology. And I was the first to get 5G, but if I didn't fix it, I would not own this, and my daughter would never pick one up. Okay, she doesn't go out of the house without her band, which is on her wrist now. It used to be on her ankle. It's just one of the products that we use as personal protection. She wears that when she goes out of the house. I always have a card. It's a different product here. A little card I put in my back pocket. So, but to answer your question, I just had to go to that side note because people need to realize like what the experts say is safe, and then the safety standard guidelines that we're being given are just so high compared. Now, this was my cell phone with a chip on the back, but you saw it skyrocketing on the meter because we're not blocking the radiation. The meter's not going to change because we're not blocking the radiation. We're addressing the absorbed radiation, the subatomic chaos, so that we don't react to it anymore.
Makes sense. It's kind of volts versus subatomic chaos, right?
Yeah, it's not volts. It's not voltage. It's measured in. It's like saying miles or kilometers or whatever. You can do microwatts per meter squared or Tesla or milliwatts. There's different ways to measure different intensities of different types of frequencies, but this one measures microwatts per meter squared. Okay, it's just a unit measurement of radiation that goes in the microwave range. So this doesn't measure like the electricity in my house or dirty electricity. This is just measuring like routers and cell phones and things like that. So yeah, if I blocked the cell phone, it would read 0 in here, and I also wouldn't have a cell phone that worked. You know what I mean? So you could wrap your router in aluminum foil 3 times, and this meter will say no radiation's coming off at you, but then you won't have any internet either. So, but luckily we don't have to block it because that's not the problem. It's the stuff that got absorbed, and that's what our products address uniquely. Nobody on the planet's doing it but us, and that's why we're having the best result out there in the world.
It's almost like you're harmonizing it. You're not getting rid of it. You're almost like you're neutralizing it.
Yes, neutralizing and harmonizing are great words. I just am a little hesitant to use the word harmonizing because certain scientists or medical doctors who are holistic minded tried all these harmonizers because they claim to harmonize. It's a word that just got used and thrown around so much that now they're comparing our products to these harmonizers. Well, those harmonizers don't have the science. They didn't test it on human cells. They didn't show like everything that we've shown to prove our product's working. So, you mentioned, total side note here, you mentioned mold. And we moved into a new house that already had a mold problem. So I get the mold. Mold's a big issue. One of my accounts as a practitioner, medical doctor who deals with environmental toxins, and mold is like probably his main issue that people are coming in with. And the world is worse off now. So there's a scientist that showed that mold produces 600 times more mycotoxins when near a router or another type of microwave radiation
Interesting.
versus
Huh.
in a Faraday cage. Okay. So that was a guy that Dr. Klinghardt talks about. I heard this, read this. So I said, well, great, let's test our products on this. We first did it on bread. You can see this on my website. We put 2 pieces of bread next to my router and in both in a Ziploc bag, both one spray of water on them. And sure enough, the mold started growing on the part of the bread that was closest to the router first, and then it grew back from there. And the one with our product underneath called a Better Z's, this is a thing that you put under your mattress. Looks like a little, sandbag or whatever. You put this under your mattress to create the field that we create. The one with the Better Z's didn't have for 30 days, had nothing. The other one I had to throw out of my house in 7 days because it was getting so nasty. I was worried that the mold might leak through the bag or something. But then we later did a experiment with mold in petri dishes. So we had 2 Faraday cages, and a Faraday cage, for listeners if they don't know, is like just a box that blocks EMFs from going in or out. Faraday cage. So you're not having any external factors influence your experiment, basically. So we put 2 petri dishes in a Faraday cage in these boxes. We put the same router, it was an Apple router in both of them. And we had mold spores in both, and we watched to see how fast they would grow. And the one with our product in it, you see no visual evidence the same day that this is starting to have colonies that grow. And if you look up close, it's not something I want to be to be growing too much in my house. So I haven't done that. I've done it many times, but I haven't done it so many that I have like some of our other studies that were done by labs and other things. This is just internal stuff, but so far the evidence suggests strongly that our products are probably protecting people from mold growing and getting out of hand. And
Wow.
Dr. Klinghardt, that mold's getting crazy because it's anything that attacks mold, it becomes smarter, wiser, and better. Like if you go after, it's just like antibiotics for bacteria. If you half kill the bacteria, the half that survived is going to come back stronger than ever. Next time you attack it the same way with the same antibiotic, it's going to be resistant. Same thing with mold. If you attack it, it comes back stronger. So if you attack it with EMFs, because EMFs are hurting mold just like it's hurting us, according to Dr. Klinghardt, he guesses, is a pretty good guess, then they respond by coming back harder and stronger to try to survive. So that may be why our world has a worse mold problem now than 5-10 years ago, because we have so many more EMFs in our world. Every way, just walking down the street is now at least 4. I dare say maybe probably more like 10 times worse now than it was 5 years ago. Just walking down the street. Mold is everywhere and being affected. So I wonder if mold in all these houses that get smashed by this stuff is also being worse. Because we had a problem with a house we moved into. Now we fixed it. It was too late. It was already here. And then we have so many friends that are having these mold dogs go to their houses to try to smell for mold and figure it out. And they're gutting their house. And, I just wonder if it's worse because of the EMFs that we're putting all over modern society.
It sounds like, to me, it makes sense. So I'm sold on this. Like I'm gonna, obviously I'm gonna get this for my house. Like at this point, I can't wait to go tell my wife. It's like, okay, hey, like this is what we're gonna do. What's the process look like to me? Because you've mentioned a lot of different products. I feel like that obviously you can go kind of kind of a la carte, and that looks good. But it seems like this is something that's needs some guidance for kind of like a more complete process. So
Yeah.
what does the process look like? I know we've got a website set up to Seth EMF, just to make it easy for people, which I'll put in the description. So Seth EMF is the website that people can go to. But what does the process look like? People can go get like a few things off the website, like the cell phone thing, which makes sense. Like the whole card in your pocket makes perfect sense. But what about someone that says like, okay, look, I want to do a whole house remediation of this. How do you do that?
Well, you need to fix everything if you want to be a healthy person. That's just the bottom line. That's not a salesperson talking. That is just like, that's all of my family, friends, they fix their EMFs. And many of them have testimonials too. And it took that before they believed me. But if you don't have the budget for it, it's a great, you should go to our website through your site. Okay,
Yeah, so
go through your website to
SethEMF.com.
ours. Yep. And then when you get to ours, you click on get a free home test. And that's that green button there. And when you click on that, you go to this page, you fill it out. One of our certified EMF specialists, a trained person, will call you, contact you. And if they're close enough to you, sometimes they are, they can come to your house and literally they use 3 meters and they show you like how much EMF is in your home coming off your router, your cell phone in your home. And we like to do the thing with the meters, not for the before and after, because we talked about that. It's to show people how serious and severe this problem is. When you see the meters, I mean, the meters are being maxed out. That's how fast the amount of radiation coming off of our products go. The meters, some of them aren't even keeping up with the technology because it's just so much. So when you see it, you realize that this isn't some kind of, scare tactic thing that, somebody's talking about on the internet. Like, it's real. It's in your house. It's going on. It's invisible, but now you see it with the meter's eyes. So we like to do that. But if they're not close enough where they can come to your house, and it's a free home test, literally, when they come to your house, they'll test it. They'll give you the results. They'll give you suggestions. They'll talk to you, and it's literally costs you nothing. But if they are not close enough to drive to your house, they'll give you a free consultation. And that is valuable because you can bounce any question you still have off of them and say, hey, how long is this going to last? Or how do I know it's working? Or any question, bounce it off of them. Make sure you feel good before you go buy anything. And then if you have a budget, you can say, I can't afford to fix my house, but I got this. And they'll say, well, get these 3 products for that amount of money. And that's going to be like half of your battle right there. And so they'll know what to tell you to get first. It's usually fixing your cell phone, a personal product, and fixing your area where you sleep. But they'll tell you what's the most important, and you'll go from there.
Okay.
Click on the free home test. That's
it makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, so SethEMF.com takes you here. Obviously, you've got a lot of information here, which is great, and that's my sense with you too. Is that I've seen there's a lot of people, they have, we've got this magical shungite thing. And it's like, okay, in theory it sounds good, but my sense in talking to you is that you're very scientific in your thinking. You actually more engineering based in your thinking, and that you're not going to say something does something unless you've proved it 10 times over that does something. So here, though, your website, education, testimonials. I'm looking forward to reading these, actually. Well, you weren't joking about testimonials either.
That's only a fraction. I have like hundreds on my cell phone. Many I can't put because anything that's linked or suggests at all a medical condition or disease, I don't put them on the website. We are very careful to not be practicing medicine without a license.
You put like XXX, right? You won't even mention what ailment.
I will X it out, or I just won't even put it on there. So these are just about 100 or 150 or something testimonials of better sleep, more energy, and a couple other things like, pain's going away and different things. I wish I could show all, but that's the ones we safely show. And it's very common. And you see a lot of these are practitioners and all kinds of people. A lot of them are practitioners.
What I'm seeing, just scanning through here, what I'm seeing over and over again is people saying, I had the best sleep ever. Right? And here you go. The day after you left, I had a lot of energy. I never rested and napped that day, which is unusual for me. And took my son on a long walk on the beach. I was doing something until 10 p.m. More energy, more alert. My sleep overall focus has improved. Great night's sleep. I slept longer last night, which is something I've been desperately needed. Interesting. This is funny. Unexpected. My cat seems to be way more energetic and present since you did your magic. He's 14 years old and has been sleeping a lot, and he sleeps by the Wi-Fi box. Actually, which is common. Actually, animals often sleep by the Wi-Fi because it's warm. They like that. So
what's weird, cats tend to sleep by the Wi-Fi. It's like they're on guard and alert or something. Dogs tend to be away from it.
Interesting. So, Cory, this has been great. I learned a ton. Again, I'll make sure that we put the link in the description, just Seth EMF, easy to remember. But yeah, thank you for this. I'll be in touch with you afterwards. I'll fill out the home test. My wife's going to be happy with this, but yeah, this is what you presented to me based upon all the research I've done. Like it fits. It makes sense to me, actually. It's It's not some magical woo-woo stuff or like a little patch that has prayers on it that makes you feel better. It's real science. So I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you giving me your time today. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this set up. Like this is good. Then you'll have my testimonial. Then maybe once I set it up and give it a couple of weeks, we'll do a show again, which I always love doing that because I like being the guinea
Yeah.
pig. If I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to try this, I try it. And I'll come back and I'll say, hey, I did a liver cleanse and this is what came out of my body. This is, you know what I mean? So I dive into those things. But this is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's about half or a little over half the time we get a testimonial. The 5 docs, probably the ones that spoke out about COVID and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah,
4
yeah,
out of
yep,
5 of
yes.
those guys have testimonials.
Huh.
And a lot of I got on Daystar TV, which is out of Austin, Texas, multiple times because they used our products after trying a bunch of stuff. She was getting wasted tired during the day because I have a huge cell tower next to them, huge power lines, plus their TV station. So all of that, they were just demolished. She said halfway through the day at work, I was wasted, tired, just destroyed. But I'd travel, which is bad EMFs, and she felt better. She's like, so she finally used our products, got a testimonial, got a call, bam, I was on. So that's a lot of times how that's how we've grown. It's just people spreading the word because of all the testimonials, which is really amazing. But if you don't get a testimonial, I'll tell people. I showed you that first the blood under a microscope. Kathy, who's a manager of ours, she didn't feel any different. I fixed her house. Her daughter had better sleep. She didn't feel any different. But she went to her doctor, and her doctor showed the blood, with and without the cell chip on the phone. And she was like, she called me and said, "Can I work for you guys?" So that's how that started. But you don't have to feel a difference because we are not fixing health conditions. Your body's going to have extra energy with this toxin way lowered. I mean, we can lower it if we properly fix a house to almost nothing, almost zero. And if it's like that, most people will feel a shift in their body. Now, by the way, she can tell. She's actually got some testimonials now, but it took a while.
Interesting.
And now she's
Interesting.
seen so many others that she's excited. But even the people that don't have a testimonial, it still works. Like human cells in a petri dish showed this damage happening every time. And then it got fixed. So
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, Cory,
yeah,
thank you for giving us your time today. It's been really nice speaking to you.
absolutely.